this is going to be fun. We are doing a healing habitats panel. For the price of one, you get 3 different organizations. What? How can that be boring? So I'm going to call them up to stage. And you all know Olivier. If you were not here yesterday, you missed out. But the Crane Man is going to be moderating a conversation with 3 organizations. And when I asked him if he wasn't working on cranes, what would he work on and what's his favorite species, it took like 10 minutes because he said he doesn't discriminate. He likes all of them. He could work with absolutely any species. So there you have it. We also have Burst, who is a program manager at Okapi. And he's actually the son of, let me get it right, Jean Nlamba, who actually helped to start OCP in 1987. When I asked him what other species would he work on if it wasn't for Okapi, excitedly, like you almost heard him and I was trying to whisper. He was like, lions. I was like, okay, no, not that serious. Cecile is a habitat restoration manager at RWCA, and she works on healing habitats. So this panel is pretty much her thing. And she said her favorite animal is actually giraffes. So she's in a good place. And then lastly, we have the executive director of Macau, and this is Sam. And when I asked him what his favorite animal was, he said the Kia, a parrot I've never heard of in my life.
Kia?
He had to show me a picture, and I was just like, never heard of it, never seen this bird before, but there we have it. So now we have a new species to deal with. So they're going to do their thing. Again, questions in Slido if you have any, and we'll take them later.
All right. Thank you so much, Zoe. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh. Yeah, welcome to this panel discussion on healing habitats. I'm so looking forward to discussing with you, Dr. Sam, Cecile, and Bears about your efforts to really healing habitat in the perspective of species that you are working with. So when they told me that I would be facilitating this panel discussion, I started Googling. And one thing I was looking at, actually, because we are coming from different perspectives of species, I was looking at different threats, like the most common threats for biodiversity globally. And I came up with 5: climate change, habitat loss, pollution, overexploitation of species, and invasive species. And when I was looking at all of those, actually 4 of them, like climate change, pollution, habitat loss, invasive species, it comes to how we are interacting with nature, our mother nature. And our mother nature, we are losing most of it, like at a very high rate. And again, when you look at it globally, over 1 million species is under threat of extinction. And the health of the ecosystem on which we all rely on is deteriorating more rapidly, more than ever. So this panel really comes at the right time. We have seen like a huge global restoration movement. Many organizations, conservation organizations, are shifting from single species conservation-based action to actually investing in restoring and protecting our natural world. We've seen like governments, individuals, organizations investing, like racing really to restore the degraded land. So actually talking today, like many of WCN partners, they are actually also on the race to saving our species and our our own health by healing habitats. So today we have these amazing people coming from different perspectives. You all come from different, you work with different species, distinct species, and we also work with habitat restoration. And I would really like to actually ask you, why do you need to work at the level of habitat restoration, looking at the species that you are working with, in the perspective of the species you're working with? I will start with you, Bears, then Cecile, and Sam.
Thanks, Olivier, for your question. For us, Okapi Conservation Project, the forest is the specific and essential habitat for the Okapi. by destroying the forest through slash and ban agriculture, but also um, illegal mining minerals. So human population and dangerous these species that okapi. And then our action in the field and ground is not only to protect the okapi, but also other animal species like elephant, chimpanzees, and other big mammals.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Cecile.
Yeah, like at RWC, our species that we conserve is grey-corned cranes. And of all 15 crane species of the world, only crowned cranes are the ones that sleep and roost in the trees. So other cranes stay on the ground at night, but for the crowned cranes, they breed or lay eggs in the wetlands and then sleep or roost in the trees. So at first we used to conserve the wetlands or the breeding sites of the cranes. And the idea for restoration came by the time we visited one of the largest wetland in the northern part of the country, Rwanda. And you realize there are only 3 individual trees, like 1, 2, 3 of the trees, where the cranes that were in that wetlands were only roosting. So imagine having like 50 cranes in the wetland, and at night they are all going to squeeze in the 3 individual trees. So, because the cranes, they don't like roost in any type of the trees. They prefer the umbrella trees with the branches just to stay there at night. So we said, let's start like planting these kind of trees so that the cranes have the trees to roost in. So we started by that, but as the program grew, we realized that we don't, like the trees, we have not only to plant trees for the cranes, but also for other wildlife. So for the moment, we are like creating small forests where we can, which serve like for food or even like roadside for not only for cranes but also for other animals and for people in general.
Oh, thank you. That's a good story. Sam?
So for our parrots, it's very similar to the okapi and the crane, where the macaws need really quite good forest. They're a bit picky, really, and so. This is going to be really scientific, but bear with me. If you've got loads of forest, you have loads of parrots.
Yeah.
And then if you cut down 3/4 of your forest, you're not going to have as many parrots. So this is, I know this is, now, yeah, see if you can keep up here. When we want the number of parrots to go up, we need to restore the habitat and just give them somewhere to live. And so that's the crux of it. I know it's tricky, but it's taken me a few years. I've now got the grasp of it. Yeah,
I really love the answer. It's really hard to understand.
yeah, exactly. Got a PhD.
Yeah, but so again, I want to come to this term healing. You know, we are all used to the word habitat restoration. This is what usually trends. And when WCN sent this topic, say healing habitat, and I was saying, like, is this something new? Like, that is trending without me knowing? I started Googling, but actually, healing, it reminded me of something when I was a little boy. I went to the doctor. I was very sick with fever and everything. And I think I was 7 years old. And the doctor tested me and they found out I was sick. I had like malaria. And I asked the doctor, what is malaria? He said, there is a parasite in your blood that is causing the disease. And then the doctor gave me about 4 different types of medicine. And they told me to sleep in a net in the night, all sorts of things. And then I asked the doctor, so doctor, there is one parasite, a parasite in my body, and you are giving me all of these medicine. Which one kills this parasite? I'm sorry, I was so very stubborn when I was little. And he showed me which one, but he said, like, you see, we are trying to heal you, like, because healing has to be holistic. We have to combine many medicine to make sure your body is healed. So when I was thinking of healing habitat, really this came in my mind, and it made me think healing habitat has to be holistic. There must be a lot of approach that we bring together to make sure we heal those habitats. It's not just about a large forest or small forest. It's about how you get there. So I would really like to ask you, especially you, Bears and Cecile, what are the kind of interventions that you have on ground to make sure like you are healing the habitat?
Thanks, Olivier. We do a lot, but I will try to summarize.
Please.
Okapi Conservation Project is focused in 3 pillars or points. The first one is wildlife protection. We work with ICCN, that is Congolese Institute of Nature Conservation. In the US side, I know you have US Fish and Wildlife Services. So they have EcoGuard, and then we need EcoGuard to try to work with DEGA to stop kind of illegal exploitation of minerals, because that activity destroy a lot the forest. And then the second one, we have conservation assistance, one of the most critical with local community. The Okapi Wildlife Reserve in Congo is a protected area, but we have the human population presence.
Yeah.
That's why the reserve, after its creation, we split in different zones. And then one of them, we have agriculture zone, where we work with farmers, with our agronomes teams, trying to give them education, capacity building, but also ecological techniques. So we are trying to maintain them in the same land we call fallows, so they are not able to go and cut the primary forest. And then to have their attention, we provide, apart from education, capacity building, we provide also agriculture tools, rice seed, bean seed, so they can be able to produce and then sell to the local market. We assist or we support over 900 farmers inside, but also outside the reserve. And then we have we set up kind of 6 sites outside the reserve, because there is a big forest exploitation. People are coming looking for the big trees, for timber and everything. So we set up the nursery. With our nursery workers, we are able to produce trees, and then we can distribute for free to local communities, but also other people who are very interested on planting trees.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Ceci, before I go to you, it really sounds like it all comes to understanding the area, understanding the species and the people, listening to the people, the needs, and then designing like those actions that really can give you sustainable results. So, Cecile, like at WCA, what kind of interventions do we have on the ground and to make sure we have these holistic, sustainable results?
Yeah. Let me first thank you for the study of you with the doctor. It made me think that to heal the habitat, you have first to know like what's the challenges or what are the threat to this habitat. So most of the times the challenges to the habitat you have is like the pressure from the population. So in terms to heal the habitat, at RWC, the first thing that we do is to have the community on board in whatever we do, just for us to succeed in our restoration activities or healing our habitats. So in what we do, we involve community in each and like step of our work. So what we do, we have like a integrated restoration. So where we work with community and they are able or willing to give their land for restoration. So, and we make sure that community benefit from the restoration activities that we do as much as the species or the wildlife benefit for those activities. So what we do is that we do grow trees and we have like stages, like we have the production stages in the production of the trees, like seed sourcing, we involve community and they get paid. In planting, we work with the community. In protecting the areas that we stored, we work with the community. So we make sure that we create temporary jobs and also permanent jobs in those activities. And also we have like conservation agreements with the community members so that we can use their land and grow trees on their lands, and they are receiving like some kind of like money for them to take care of the trees planted.
Thank you so much. So Sam, I'm going to ask you this question by in another way. I remember like a few weeks when we were discussing, you did mention a book you were reading, The Tree Thieves.
Yeah.
And how this really has influenced the way you see this situation. Do you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, so I was reading this book as Macquarie Recovery Network made its first land purchase, and the book is talking about poaching. And when we think about poaching, we think about elephants and rhinoceroses and stealing baby parrots. But actually, we don't really think about wood that much being poached. And it's actually in North America, it's $1 billion trade every year. And the book gives this nice historical context of back in the 16th century, I think it was, in England, the commoners who had access to the common land didn't want to cede their rights to the land-grabbing monarchy and so on. And then it talks about Robin Hood, and the sheriff. It says that there's a quote from another conservationist, and it says, "Well, the sheriff of Nottingham was never going to win against Robin Hood because Robin Hood had the support of the people," and that really made sense to me, because I'd been thinking more of like there's this clever tech where they can, there's things that hear gunshots and they send you a message and things like that. But that fortress model of conservation is never really going to work in the long term. And if we want to safeguard the forest, it's very clear that we've got to engage the community. And one of the things that we've been doing is habitat restoration as a way of engaging the community.
Yeah, engaging community and having communities really is a key. And again, we are talking the perspective of community-based conservation organization.
Yeah.
But you talk about engaging community. I really want to stay here and ask you, there is engaging community, but how do we give them a reason to really protect those forests or those areas we are?
So that's definitely the challenge. It's how do we bring value? Bring value to keeping it as a forest rather than cutting it down and having cows or whatever it might be. And that's definitely a great challenge that we face. We can't expect local communities to shoulder the burden of maintaining the world's biodiversity, and if we think about climate change as well. So we've got to look at ways to bring that value. And one way that's been done very well in Rwanda and in Costa Rica is ecotourism. But I think there's actually great potential with carbon credits, and framing this all in the context of global climate change, and using that as a way to bring value to local communities. It's not perfect, and the Guardian newspapers totally slated it, but I'm at the point where it's like, well, it's a mechanism that it can do with some improvement, but we don't have to throw it out at this point. Let's improve it, and that is one way that can bring value to local communities. And that's, for us, that's really the big challenge, is how do we give them a reason to safeguard the forest.
Thank you so much, and thank you for mentioning Rwanda, the country where I come from. Definitely, it's actually one place where we've there is this place we were trying to protect, to increase the protection status. And it's one community where you go to, some of the community you go to and they say like, we want this place to become like a national park, because they know ecotourism is booming and there is a lot of revenue share, like the base that comes from tourism. So economic value, it's one of the biggest thing that community can benefit from, protecting forests, from restoring as well. But I really want to stay on this. So I love really community, because this is, if we are to succeed, the community is the way to go. So I want to continue on to emphasize on community. And I want to ask you, Bears, like how your organization is really making sure communities are on board on your healing, habitat activities.
Yeah, I would like to remind you that the Okapi Wildlife Reserve is habitat by human population that is different from national park, where local community are removed since its creation. So we have a big program, conservation education, but on my side we call education program shortly. And then the big objective is to provide information about Okapi protection specifically, but also protecting the Okapi Wildlife Reserve in general. So we do that through public awareness meeting. We do through environmental seminars with customary chief, with farmers in different level. And then we organize also World 3 days, just to involve local community, to involve farmers. And then with our agronomes teams inside of the reserve, the agriculture zone was created or was delimited by and with local community. That is kind of a success story. They accept our program to work according to the law. They accept to do agriculture on those zones instead of banning, slashing the land, and then they will be moving the same place to another, continue to cut the primary forest. And then I would like to give you a kind of story. At the beginning of this year, we had a goal that was an ambition for us to be able to plant kind of 100,000 trees. And then we went to our farmers that we call collaborators. It was a little bit difficult because of, according to security issues, poor road conditions, but we had an agreement, let us try. And then I think 1.5 years ago, one of staff from my team related to me that at the end of September, we already produce, distribute, planted over 80, 60, 100 trees already.
That's really.
So you see, they accept what we tell them, and then we still having a big demand from our local communities. And then if I can add something, every year we have like 900 farmers that we assist on support. So they are able to join our agroforestry program.
Yeah, Beres, let me ask you, like, that's really good to hear, but I know Congo is very diverse with a lot of culture. Are there some, like, probably, you know, when a community want to relate, to feel like they own something, sometimes, is there any indigenous people who think like these are our forests, medicinal plants, or social, or other cultural practices that really make people feel like we want to protect this area because of these kind of values?
Thank you, Olivier.
In 30 seconds.
Yeah, thank you, Olivier. You know, inside of the reserve, we are not protecting only we are not protecting the forest only for the Okapi,
Yeah.
but also for the indigenous people that we call Mbuti committee and then Efe committee, because those people are their life have totally depend on the forest, because they have their area for traditional rate. They can do gather, bringing things from the forest, and then they can be able to sell and then to take care of their family.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So, Cecile, I'm still on the community. You know, we work in the same organization, and at RWCA, we always strive to really come up with homegrown solutions to make sure communities are involved, key players or stakeholders in our habitat restoration program. Give us one example of a challenge that you've made and one homegrown nature-based solution that you've come up with to solve the challenge, if there is any that comes in your head.
Yeah, I'm a person of plants, so I'm always in the nursery producing trees to plant outside just for restoration. So we use native trees, and it's really hard to find seeds for the native trees. So I had a challenge of finding for seed sourcing, and also sometimes when I find seeds, they are not viable. I can wait for germination for like so long, and it affects my production rate. So, and I came up with an idea because we grew up seeing trees, like native trees around, and traditionally, women, like we women were the ones that to select bed seeds for like growing like crops. So women are the ones to search for those seeds. So that's jumped in our heads, like, can't we use this opportunity and work with women around the country just to help us with the seed sourcing for the native trees? So we took the initiative and go around the country. We identified the remaining mother trees for the native species. And after identifying those trees, we like walk around the areas and find women, talked with them, and we find that they have like strong knowledge about those trees, and they were really willing to protect those trees. So we recruited them, we trained them, we gave them like all necessary equipment like for protection. We even gave them like smartphone to use, like just to collect data on the phenological data or of those trees, like when do we collect seeds, like how, like when do these trees fruiting, like all those kind of data. So we recruited those women, and they are now helping us with the seed harvest, and we get the seeds on time. We store them in a proper way, and also they are earning a living from that because they are selling those seeds to us, and they are now in a good health because they are benefiting from the program, and it boosted their confidence, and they're now earning something. And for us as RWCA, we are also benefiting because we are having seeds, like nice seeds, and the diversity increased, and also we are like able to produce like we can even give other people who need like seeds. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing the experience. It's a really good business model. I was impressed when you came up with the idea. Solutions are around. We have communities on board, and we just need to bring them on board. Yeah. So the time, it goes really fast. Just, yeah, I wish we had a lot of time, but it looks like really for each species there are needs. But the way we do it is so holistic. But one key is that we need to have communities on board. We need to have them to make sure they buy in and they are really engaged at all stages. That's how we can sustain these programs. We need to restore in a way that benefits communities and species, different types. We need like a pristine area, buying like areas that are, or even protecting some of those remaining intact forests for all of these species. So there is a lot that we can do, but we cannot do it alone. Today we have all of these amazing people here in the audience, and the fact that they are here means they are already really joining us. And I want to give you, each of you, like 30 seconds to really tell us the most pressing needs that you have. How can we help you? I will start with you.
Again, okay.
30 seconds.
I think according to the pressure of forest exploitation, we want to extend our agroforestry program around the reserve, because the Okapi Wildlife Reserve is around 40 kilometers square, so it's bigger. We want to cover all the reserve with agroforestry program that it's a alternative solution according to healing habitat.
Yeah, thank you so much. Cecile?
For me, I would like to, because we are seeing the impact of the sites that we restored, because we do the biodiversity survey on those sites. We are seeing that it is really helping the wildlife. So I would like to see my organization being able to secure other remaining natural areas for us to restore those areas for the wildlife, and also for the people around those areas to benefit from that.
Sam?
We've got a successful Women Rangers program in a village to the north of our new reserve. On our new reserve, we've got 100 acres of pasture to reforest, and we want to replicate that program in the community immediately next to the reserve. So we're looking at a staff member, a vehicle, and all the other bits and pieces to build up that reforestation capacity. So that's our immediate project, and I'm going to put a dollar number on that. That's about $70,000 all in, with a vehicle and a staff member for a year. And that means we can engage a whole new group of women, and they can work together with the established Women Rangers, and we can expand it. So that's really exciting for us.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. I think it's time that we give floor to the public, to the audience, to ask some questions.
Thank you so much. We only have time for one question that was slid into Slido. Get that? Okay. The question is, are you already seeing the impact of the restoration work that you're each doing on your focal species? And I'll start with the rose amongst the thorns. I'll start with Cecile, and then Burst can take it on, and then we'll end with Sam.
Okay.
Thank you, Zoe. As I said previously, we are really seeing the impact of the restoration. And if you attended Olivier's presentation yesterday, you saw that the cranes, when we started the census, it was on 457 something numbers. And this year we have 1,216 cranes in the country. So it's like the cranes have multiplied by 3 for the past 6 years. So it's like a success for us for the restoration work that we did.
Mm-hmm. In our side, I think our program shows good results, because local communities accept our provide to them, but we still facing inside of the reserve with mining. So, but outside of the reserve, we do see people are coming to ask for requests, to ask for advice, how our program can help them to keep intact the forest, because around the reserve there is a big agglomeration. It's very hot, and they do understand the benefit having the trees. So when we are seeing people, when we are seeing local community kind of disturbing us for needs to help them to restore the forest, that is a benefit and intention for us.
That's really good. Benefit. Yeah. It's good to see the measure on communities, like, yeah, and which, if communities are like satisfied, it means like it's reflecting on the species we are protecting.
Exactly.
So the question is, are we seeing an impact on the species we're working with? And my answer is actually no, we're not. And it's like, and that's because it's too soon. We've been doing this work for 3 years with habitat restoration work, and conservation doesn't happen in 3 years. And it tickles me because we do grant applications, and it's like, write a grant for you, 12 months of funding, and what are the measurable impacts you're going to see in 12 months? It's like nothing. Get real. I mean, seriously, conservation takes decades.
Yes.
And that's why WCN is so important, and the support of all the WCN donors, it's so important because you're investing in a future and you're making long-term commitments to projects, because that's what it takes. You're not going to see a result. I mean, we're talking about the mountain almond tree, which the great green macaw is really dependent on. It's 650, it lives for 650 years. 3 years is nothing. I mean, I just find it hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's like, so, there are projects that are much more established than ours that have been doing restoration for longer. And that's where you see the impact. Ask me that question again in 20 years, and then I'll
Okay.
we are
Back
seeing,
here.
we are seeing impacts on the communities that work with the birds, and that's fantastic.
That's fantastic.
But directly on the birds, no.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yes.
Thank you. Not yet.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I guess it is a long game. That's what you're saying. We'll see you all in 20 years, and then we can argue
Yeah.
what's happening with that. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Welcome. Stack the chairs. Stack the chairs.